So 2025 was an exceptional year for development in the city with numbers really that are unprecedented, the development activity that we've never seen. And Kevin will walk us through some of the details of the excellent development activity that we had last year. The permit numbers are, along the same trend, but the value is way higher, 4 times higher than what even is a high year for us. So with that, you can see that the development activity is strong, and there's definitely larger, more major projects that we are facilitating through the One-Stop Development Shop. And anyway, with that, before I steal Kevin's thunder, I will hand it over to Mr. Molnar. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members of Growth Committee. I'm pleased to provide the Growth at a Glance update summarizing development activity for 2025. 2025 represents the strongest year we've ever recorded in St. John, and the value of construction has reached a record $389.9 million, over 3 times our 5-year average of $123.7 million for the same time frame. Through this period, we received 697 building permits, exceeding our 5-year average of 679. 2 new schools and the residential development of 99 King Street have played a key role into last year's success. However, even excluding those 3 major projects, development activity would still be the highest on record for any year. Activity over the past year has been widespread across the development landscape. Confidence remains high, and we are continuing to see new projects get pushed forward. And we are also continuing to see a new positive trend in residential unit counts. This past year, we saw the creation of 606 new residential units, significantly above our 5-year average of 394. We are continuing to see large number of multi-unit residential buildings being constructed across the city, and also have 11 additional developments in the pipeline, which together propose over 750 new residential units. Altogether, 570 units are either nearing completion or under construction citywide. Taking everything into account, the 2025 period has set new records in terms of construction value and units created, and marks a landmark year of development. With this success, it was really encouraging to see that it wasn't just one major project or development like we've seen in years past. Investment across the city remained diversified, signaling long-term stability. I will now take any questions or comments from the committee.
Thank you, Deputy. So in 2026, the City Market, first of all, the City Market is going to be celebrating its 150th anniversary, which is a significant milestone for the GEM in our uptown area. And the City Market will be implementing a series of vendor relocations, stall renovations, and layout improvements to enhance circulation, functionality, and visitor experience. Most of this work will happen in the first half of the year to minimize the impact of the market's busy summer and tourism seasons. Matthew Dempster is our implementation manager at the market, and he's going to be providing a presentation on the construction plan for all of these great activities and moves we're going to see at the City Market over the next year.
Great. Welcome.
Okay, sorry about that. Today I want to talk to you about the planned construction that we have on for the City Market in 2026. We're excited to show these projects and how they align with the 2023-2033 strategic plan. as you're aware of the plan, there's actionable steps to strengthen the market as a vibrant, accessible, and welcoming place. So as we go into the actual projects, as Commissioner Pothenroth mentioned, the construction phase is planned for the first half of the year to help focus on the projects as well as to focus on the vendors' busy times of the year, as well as we are also celebrating the 150th anniversary, and there'll be a lot of events that'll be planned for the second half of the year. So we want to try to mitigate those experiences being tampered with. So schedule for Q1. So the relocation of Kim's Korean and Chicken by Felix were two initiatives that have already taken place. They are now relocated into their new stalls. We're also in the process of renovating the former Billy Seafood space, which will now be Market Street Kitchen. We're also renovating the space and moving Howard's into the former Tea Infusion space. Jeremiah's will also be renovated. Due to the fact that the new seating area will be in place, we have to move that stall back to the red columns, the pillars. So in order to do that, Jeremiah's will also be relocating their business during the construction phase into the previous Kim Korean space and the previous Chicken by Felix space. Also, we have someone joining the market. The bagel artist will be moving into the former Java Moose space at the bottom of the market. While these construction phases are happening, the intent is for the market to remain open during these phases. So this is a little drawing of makeup of the market. So just to show people where these are, in the bottom left-hand corner is where the bagel artist will be located. As you move along the bottom of the screen to the center blue box, that is where Kim's Korean is now located. Up here towards the bottom right, this is the former Billy space where Market Street Kitchen is going. The renovations that are going on in there are to add an accessible washroom. We've added we've modified the vestibule, and we've added a ramp to the outside on Charlotte Street to improve the accessibility of the space. Also, as we move up, so currently Howard's is located in this location. They'll be located up next to North Market Street. By doing this, it'll allow us to add an additional restaurant or cafe type space. We are also looking to add an accessible washroom into that space, which will give us a capacity of 25 occupants. And then at the top of the screen is where Chicken by Felix has moved, which is the former Wild Carrot space. So as we move into Q2, that is when we'll start the construction of the new deck, the seating area. It'll be located between where Jeremiah's stall currently is, as well as the Wild Carrot. As we start that phase of construction, obviously some of the benches will have to be removed to make room for that, which will start into the kiosk space, the new kiosk. The completion of Jeremiah's space will happen in Q2. The Hooper timepiece, which used to be situated down by Market Square, will also be established in the center of the market. So we'll have to pour a new concrete base, and then that'll be placed in the center as well. So we're excited about that. It's a good landmark to have back in circulation and in view. We're planning for 1 to 3 new kiosks being installed. The aisle in front of Jeremiah's during this construction phase will be closed, so there'll be signage and everything to make people well aware. And as we go from the end of Q2 and into Q3 and Q4, we'll be finalizing additional stall details for designs for the upcoming years. So the affected areas during Q2, firstly, the main area in the center. The blue pentagon would be where the Hooper timepiece will sit. And then you have 2 kiosks, the new seating area, and an additional kiosk as you work your way up the market. And this box represents Jeremiah's current space. So I'm sure everyone's kind of curious about the kiosk itself and what they would look like. This is a model representing the design that we've come up with. As you can see, it is approximately 14 by 14. There's these blue boxes, we're calling monoliths. Essentially, they're structural to the unit, as well as they house electrical and plumbing, depending on which kiosk is being built. With surface space of spanning 12 feet and then an additional 4 feet. So basically an L, and then opposite would be an additional L. I'll show you another drawing that'll show it better. But the red posts, they represent structural steel posts that'll stay in place with additional lighting. And then we're hoping to do street signage of some sort and lighting for each kiosk. So this is a layout of the actual deck. So you can see along each side, there's bar seating. So we want to have that available so people can look out into the market while they're sitting there. There'll also be seating available. And then we also have accessible seating located in the corners. We also have planned water hookup with microwaves and garbage disposals on the entrances. And basically a water bottle refill type station as well. We're also looking at adding phone chargers into the tops of the counters. So they'll be sunken in, but they'll just be there so that it's just an added feature for people that kind of are there and want to use the space. So this is the side view of the deck. We are going with the board and batten look, and then we're trying to mimic the windows with the arch features along the side. From the end of the view, you'll also see that we've mimicked that style. And then these rings are to be cast iron to represent tie into the gates of the market. And then the light posts, there'll be 4 light posts on the design as well. And then we want to tie into the lights that are on Germain and just try to keep that flow. Okay, see if this is a little video that we developed. It's a 3D animation through the market. So this would be Charlotte Street, and as you work your way down through and just the elevation of the market. Let's see. There we go. So right now we have designed for 8 kiosks in the market, which can house between 1 to 4 people each. The deck itself is 44 feet long by 24 feet wide. It allows for 10-foot aisles either side of it to increase the accessibility within the market. This is the kiosk, and the green represents different accessories that can be added to it for increased height and increased space for the vendors to utilize the space. The red circle is a 10-foot radius around the Hooper timepiece, because we assume that it will be a real focal point for people to come in and want to take pictures with. So we want to make sure that there is plenty of room available. And I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Chair. Is the seat count that you've got displayed for the deck accurate, or is it just still draft? So it looks like you're really putting around 64 people in there.
Through the chair to the councillor, yes, at this time, the plan is for it to hold 60 people.
60 people?
Yeah.
In 40 feet by 20 feet?
Yes.
That's tight. It's a little bit bigger in this room. Anyway, okay.
And
because you do have accessible seating that you mentioned.
Yes.
And that would leave, and then we're still achieving 36 inches of easement area for people to walk through and stuff.
Yes.
Okay, it's just, I mean, it looks great. I was trying to imagine in my head this footprint and how we'd jam 60 people in there, but yeah, it does look good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Just a couple quick questions.
Yeah, light on, Don.
Who's the design team? Do we have a design team or are we just doing it ourselves? I'm just curious.
Through the chair to your worship, we are working with TOS Solutions.
I'll work with TOS Solutions. Okay. I have had some questions about lighting and that. I'll refer everybody, I guess, maybe over to TOS. anybody's got any questions.
Sure.
So Howard's is going into the old T space. So that's a bigger space for Howard's?
So the Howard's is going to take up basically the same footprint they do now.
Oh, okay.
On the outside wall. And then the remainder, including
Oh,
the remainder of that space
Right.
and the current Howard space
right.
will become space for the
Restaurant.
new restaurant.
Okay. Okay. I would say just a minutia, your phone jacks, I'd put them on the wall, easier cleaning on your countertops. The other thing I'd say is when I was away, when I was out of town, I was at a market, I didn't take a picture of it, but they had rectangular tables and they aligned them like a zigzag.
Mhm.
And they came along that long space. And I liked that because it was a contiguous sort of table that no table was any one person's. Like when you get the benches or the round ones, you might get one person sitting there and
Right.
somebody else doesn't want to crash that space as well.
Sure, yeah.
So I liked that long continuous sort of, and the zigzag sort of gave you the extra seating in the space versus one long table. So just an idea, but it looks great. I can't wait to see it all coming together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I also think it's quite a difference, right? First question I got, are the tenants aware of everything that's taken place that you just told us? Have you discussed this with the tenants, the moves and the different things that are being done? Do the tenants all know this?
Through the chair to the councillor, we have had discussions. We are, as we've gone through, we've added tenants into some of the development of the design process. And we are having an additional meeting with all tenants to update them as of this report next Tuesday.
So they haven't yet seen all the changes, but they are going to see them, correct?
So my understanding is they have seen the majority of them, but they will be up to speed on everything by Tuesday.
My second question, I brought this up at least twice when we discussed the market. North Market Street has the ability to park 4 cars. A while ago, when Charter Street was done over, there was 2 15-minute parking meters right in front of the old Bank of Nova Scotia, which is now occupied by UNB. They have been removed. The biggest, in my opinion, the biggest problem with the market, there's no place to park to get in. I suggested at least twice before that somebody would look at what I'm going to say. Quite obvious, nobody ever paid attention to me. But in those 4 spots in North Market, if at dinner hour, we can make them 15-minute meters because the deliveries are done by then and they're occupied by either city trucks or people that work there that park the rest of the day. It's very inconvenient if you want to run into the market and grab a sandwich or some type of food and come back out. And what I'm trying to say is the 2 15 meters that were across the street went when Charter Street was done over, and there's no meters, no nothing except no parking on North Market Street. If somebody would take the time to look at the spot, you can park 4 cars there. And I understand that there's deliveries to the market can't be done in South Market now because the construction in 90 King. There's enough to put meters in, a 15-minute meter, which would be perfect. Somebody can run in the market, purchase something, come out and get in their car and gone within 15 minutes. I've never heard a thing about it. It's never come back to these growth meetings, but I brought it up twice at 2 different meetings.
So.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have mine on, sorry.
Through your chair to the councillor, thanks for flagging this issue again. Parking certainly is a concern for all of us at the market. We hear that from our vendors and our visitors. Council has already made a decision proactively to pedestrianize South Market Street. And the intention is once 99 King is established its construction phase, we'll be able to fully enact that, which also then means South Market Street will be able to be used for loading. One of the challenges right now is there's a lack of loading zones in and around the market. And so there are vendors who are using them even at all hours, including late in the evening. And it is one of those challenges. How do you manage people who want to access the market as well as vendors who need the loading space? But absolutely, Councillor, that's something we can look into more closely. About whether there's any possibility of designating one stall or others, but we can commit to looking at that. But again, our plan longer term was to turn South Market Street into a shared loading space and pedestrian space.
Anyways, I totally disagree with you because the garbage is picked up early in the morning. The deliveries to the market are done down the farther end of the market. And I, who support Jeremiah's, go in quite often, right? Can't find a place to park. And it's always occupied. It's not occupied by anybody delivering to the market from, I'd say, 12 or quarter to 12 onward. The big trucks that come down, and Mr. McDonald no doubt can state it, they deliver early in the morning. And the garbage is picked up early in the morning. And that's down the far end of North Market. And I lived right next door for a while. So, like as a counselor, I keep bringing it up here and never get an answer. And I got an answer about South Market, and I understand that's where the deliveries were before. I understand that. But as 90 King is being built, it's not being utilized for that. So in the meantime, the market's making all these changes. And God only knows when 90 King's going to be done and occupied. That's all I'm saying. It's an opportunity where we can help the tenants of the market. If people, if residents could come and park in 15 minutes, put money in the meter, the city would make money and they could drive away and actually purchase something in the market. And we just keep stalling it off. Anyways, I totally disagree with you.
One final comment, Deputy, and thanks for your feedback, Councillor. Just as a reminder, the city did install double the amount of parking stalls around King Square. I think people sometimes don't realize the amount of parking uptown. And a lot of St. Johners are used to wanting to park right in front of the door they want to access. Sometimes it does mean walking a little bit farther, but on any given hour, I can look outside our offices at the city market and we'll see tons of vacant spaces directly across the street. So certainly hear the frustration in your voice, Councillor, but we also want to remind the public there is lots of parking in and around the market that people can use to access the market during lunch and any other business hour.
I'm sorry,
On
you
that.
can wrap us up then.
With those two streets though belonging to the market and they're not city streets, would there be an opportunity for the market to make, I would never have parking on South Market Street. Absolutely not. I want that pedestrianized. But on the other one, if you did put the 15 minutes in and it was monitored, could the market make that money? It might be, it's only 15 minutes and it's only probably 3 or 4 cars. I don't know what it would be, but it would be, we could put a little meter out there that says support the market and pay for 15 minutes or something.
Where it is, you're right, it's not a street.
It's not a city street.
We would have to pursue that.
When we had implemented the 15-minute spaces prior, and this was during the COVID pandemic, it really was to encourage churn in front of businesses. There were some operational challenges with the parking commission at being able to regularly check in. They
Yeah.
couldn't commit to being able to check every 15 minutes to make sure somebody was gone, and it was hard to enforce it. It was
Oh,
one of the
sure.
reasons they recommended against it. We can certainly look into whether we could
Yeah,
have a
I mean,
hearing
if
about
you were
it.
going to look into that, I think that would be part of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I just want to say that this, this plan, Matthew, it looks really, really good. And I'm happy to hear that, you've already talked to the tenants and you've got future meetings to bring them up to date because they're key.
Yes.
Right? Their businesses rely on it and we rely on their businesses. So they're great partners to have and really appreciate you coming in today and sharing it with us. And I'd take a motion to receive and file the updated information. Second. On the question, all in favor? Opposed, if any, motion's carried. Okay, Commissioner Cawthron, 7.3.
Yes, thank you, Deputy. So the next item, I'll invite Andrew Reed, our housing manager, up to the podium, and Andy's going to provide a presentation on the housing service area, their work plan for 2026 and 2027, various initiatives that the housing team has planned. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present today on current operations and planned initiatives of the housing service area. Considering the governance reform work undertaken by SHS Consulting and adoption of the Housing Secretariat model by the committee last June, we wanted to bring forward this draft initiative roadmap for the next 2 years that will help guide and begin the process of implementing this model. I would note that these initiatives are still in a draft form. We just wanted to sort of provide to you
some of the planned initiatives that could be subject to change, amendment, addition. But first, just wanted to give an overview of operations the past 2 years. And before doing so, I'd mention that direct engagement on the housing file really goes back in recent times to 2021, 2022. And as council reaches the end of this term, I think it's worthwhile acknowledging and just congratulating council for the leadership at that time and recognizing the need for a more active and intentional role on the housing file, which resulted in the launch of the Affordable Housing Action Plan process in 2021 and other initiatives, including investigating, the bigger picture, what should the city's role be. So in terms of our current operations, again, the past 2 years, we can divide the work into 4 main buckets. The folks implementing this work, as of last summer, we added a new role, the housing officer. So there are 2 staff devoted to these operations. The first bucket, housing concierge, is supportive development facilitation. And I've got some figures here. So we can track a lot of different potential projects, try and help facilitate those. Oftentimes, this is coupled with the next bucket, grants and incentives, administration of those programs. The third bucket is a newer initiative, taking the inventory of city-owned land, seeing what is potentially suitable and could be made available for housing on a targeted basis. And the fourth bucket, recognizing all work occurs within a housing system, we regularly liaise, coordinate with Housing NB, CMHC, the nonprofit and private sector to understand housing trends, issues, and try to align with those organizations. On the bottom, housing-related services are also focused on implementing remaining actions in the Affordable Housing Action Plan. And I'd also mention, the operations cover housing supply in general, especially considering the recent focus on new rental supply promoted by Housing Accelerator Fund program. So in case you want to know a little bit more about housing concierge, this area, a supported project typically falls into 2 categories. So we really like to give emphasis on the affordable non-market projects. Some of those projects might be folks who are new to development, such as a service provider. We've got the Center for Youth Care project pictured here, which had its own journey, and it's great to see that project kind of start to reach to the end. So focus on the affordable projects or projects that are of a large enough scale that they're really going to significantly impact the city's housing supply. Concierge activities sit outside the ordinary regulatory approval process. So that could mean providing a connection to external resources, partners. Most of the time it's city grant opportunities, but it could be trying to connect and align with other levels of government opportunities. So that support usually occurs between the initial attraction or idea phase of a project where envision tends to dwell and the permitting and approvals process. Sometimes we continue to work through that permitting process with the one-stop development shop. If there's a legitimate need to fast track a project, sometimes that comes up as a requirement through funders. It's important to take stock of where we are. So using SHS's work on governance reform, just wanted to quickly look at, and this isn't a definitive analysis or anything, but just a snapshot of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to try and summarize this slide. I think one of the real strengths here, the city of St. John, and potential superpowers would be the good governance to steward the housing system toward the public interest by using partnerships and data to align land use and investment to deliver the long-term community housing needs. So there's that opportunity for us to take a longer-term view to how we improve the housing system And the goal through what some of these initiatives are trying to achieve over the next 2 years are to help support council through evidence and plan-led decision-making. The next few slides, the next few slides lay out a conceptual approach for how the work of the housing service area aims to achieve this goal. So building from the bottom of the pyramid, good decisions should be based on good information, housing data and monitoring. That's collection of housing data and information received through permitting, as well as broader affordability trends reported by StatsCan and CMHC. This information includes housing pipeline, current amount of community housing, rental and ownership, market trends. As well, an emerging area we'll talk about a little bit more would be for our city, where our housing stock, much of it is older, would be monitoring changes to that stock, what direction it's heading in. As we move up the pyramid, this data is useful as we move into program development and delivery, where we work on a project by project basis, usually through grants and incentive programs, housing concierge to facilitate those units and deliver on goals. Finally, at the top of the pyramid is the coordination with other levels of government, aligning with community housing developers. This is where the goal setting occurs, the plan creation, and the sign off by growth committee and council. So I did want to provide just a sense of some of the initiatives over the next couple of years. Again, I'd highlight that these are draft. There are 9 initiatives in total we kind of put up there. The first one is an important one, and it's a need to more formally convene with those involved in actually building community housing. And the primary purpose is coordinating activities towards shared outcomes. So for example, nonprofits or private developers who are building affordable housing, NB housing programs, and CMHC programs. So through this group, we'd see the clear definition of roles within the housing system. And I'd say, this is a work in progress, but it was something identified through the Housing Secretariat model. And in a future state, ideally, we bring the partners together, there's greater alignment and ability to set realistic, measurable targets. So the city's role, we are a neutral sort of body. We have our geography of the city. We want to sort of drive targets and projects here. Secondary function of this group would be supporting and advising on policies, programs, such as the action team we convened for the creation of the Affordable Housing Action Plan. The next initiative is an internal staff group, which is simply another idea flowing from this Housing Secretariat model. So again, it's coming at the issue is if housing is a system, there's a need for those various stakeholders, even internally. So our folks, not just from housing, but from other service areas of the city, introducing that structure so it becomes a regular cadence, and there's an ongoing awareness to achieve those housing targets and outcomes, even if staff change or there's those kind of turnovers at the individual level. The next initiative is a housing monitoring framework. So this is actually was an action in our action plan. I'd say a critical piece of work to understanding housing and affordability trends on a city, but also a neighborhood level basis. So by monitoring and tracking affordability, rental ownership markets over longer periods of time, this will ensure that housing concerns remain at the forefront of policy and planning decisions. I'd say one area, again, I highlighted earlier, we could catch up on would be looking at our older private housing stock, when and where these units are turned over, what opportunities there may be to preserve them as affordable. So that inherent idea there is if we continue to lose some of that existing stock, no matter how many new units we build, it'll be hard to kind of catch up. So in all, the monitoring framework will help position the city for good future decision making through the baseline of useful data and information at a neighborhood level scale wherever possible. So next year, or this year, is the census year. We'll have a new census, and that will provide a lot of insight into where we are in terms of housing and affordability. An updated needs assessment will be necessary based on the census data. Have been 5 years since our last needs assessment. The goal with this initiative is really to also develop some in-house expertise along with the expert sort of consultant used to develop that needs assessment. So we ensure it's truly tailored to our context in St. John. We can use those insights. We know these needs assessments have become just typically required now of many federal programs, but we want to ensure that we have an active role in shaping the needs assessment and that it's going to provide a lot of useful insights for us. The next initiative looks at the role of land, so leveraging public land currently owned or possibly acquired, which may be provided to housing developers. The goal here would be to complement the existing REOI process. So that's targeting lands that don't have another economic or recreational purpose. That could be repositioned for a housing purpose as they're underutilized. The next initiative would be convening a forum with the various housing partners and affiliates. Before doing so, I'd say need to be sure that we're adding value to what is already occurring in terms of those meetings, forums occurring on an annual basis. The next initiative is a vacant land registry. So the goal of that registry is essentially to begin tracking trends of where, how many at a higher level, vacant developable properties are within the city, serviced, developable, and this will help build further understanding of what rate they're being turned over, where, what they're being assessed at. So it dovetails a little bit with the planning initiatives, we've undertaken with our zoning. We've enabled 4 units as of right in service residential areas. So of the vacant lands, tracking where those lands are being developed, how much of those lands are being developed will help gain additional insight into that policy. And last but not least, we are near the end of our existing Affordable Housing Action Plan. It was intended to be a 5-year plan, and it will need to be renewed. Much has changed in 5 years. So many of the initiatives here, I'd say in a way, are intended to help tee up that new plan for success that would be occurring next year. So it's anticipated with the maturing of the city's role and support toward the housing file, the new plan would stand to set a very positive future course to establish a new vision, ongoing improvements to the housing system. Again, thanks very much for your time in presenting some of these initiatives. Happy to take any questions or discussion.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Excellent presentation. Nice to get that update. Do we have any comments or questions? Oh, yeah, Councilor. Yes, please.
Over the years, 30 years, we've, painted hundreds of homes and cleaned a lot of vacant lots next to people's homes that they never knew who their owner was. And I think we discovered a vacant lot the other day in the north end that the man's been dead 10 years and his family's not around or anything. So I know somebody who was interested in buying it. Anyway, but what I discovered was you get to know the people in the buildings. And there's a lot of seniors particularly who are sitting there with, I think, a woman on Holly Street. Her husband's been gone a few years. She's got 3 apartments in there, empty. And I said to her, because she doesn't have a lot of money, why don't you rent out one of your places? And she said, oh, I don't know how to go about that, and you probably have inspectors, and I was thinking like, and I didn't have the answers. But I've seen so much it over the years of these great big buildings with somebody, like she's been in that building since 1930. She was born in it. And her parents used to have an office there, I think a business. And the whole building is just her and her 13 cats. And, like you run into a lot of that, like down on St. James Street. We ran into two houses like that where a couple are not, they have very low income, but yet they have all this room. One on Mecklenburg Street where they got broken into by a homeless person, two gentlemen, so they moved way upstairs. And the door, we had to replace the door for them because the kid was kicked in by some people. And anyway, I said, you got two other apartments here, you could be making income. Again, no concept of how you do that. I talked to real estate people who said if they knew, of people, but I'm just wondering, is there a way to compile a list? Like when people pay their taxes, doesn't it say how many occupants in the house? So if you take a big house like on Holly Street and a huge yard for parking and everything, and approach these people, you might be able to get income into their pockets, and they really do enjoy company. Like when you're helping them out, they enjoy having you around. So is there some way to make a list of possible empty apartments all throughout the city? I mean, I know very old housing stock, and if it's taken care of, it's a gem. Our cruise ship visitors absolutely love our architecture. And if we really take advantage of that, we should be fixing it up. I mean, it's a gem, but also it could help people personally in. Is there any way that we could make a list and then even a visit, by an inspector saying, look, here's an opportunity for you. And that would just help. I just find people that they just don't know what to do sometimes. And I'm thinking they're sitting on money that could be helping their way of life.
So I think you're onto something here, Counselor, but I'm just looking at it from the reverse way, right? I mean, it would be labor intensive to try to do that, but it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea to say, if you have empty apartments or if you have space, here's the process,
Even if Yeah.
to help them out. Because, I can understand a lot of people not.
there is a lot. I
But
mean,
if you wanted to get Andrew's response to that.
but there is a lot, Andrew, a lot more than I ever thought.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair to the counselor, they're interesting insights, anecdotes of the specific stories here. I'm sure there are more. On the data side, I guess I'd comment that we do have rich data we receive. I don't know if we receive information on actual, unless there's a permit on occupants or tenants necessarily. But I think you've touched on a couple different points, including, importance of what is the future of some of this older housing stock? How do we retain it? To what, how should it be retained? And a public awareness piece too. There could be a programming piece there and, okay, there's a vacant or underutilized building, how to connect someone who owns that building to someone who might be able to, service or program that or open it up.
A lot of these people, their families are long gone.
Yeah.
And so they don't really know who to reach out to. So if we could develop a program.
Counselor Harris, did you want to?
Yeah, with regards to leveraging land, that section, do we know, and this, I asked because this came up for me personally recently, do we know how much of our primary development area requires service delivery around city water and sewer? Is that a conversation? Because it occurs to me that if we're going to be talking about leveraging land, city-owned land is largely, from what we've had conversations around this table anyway, is largely not helpful. There's a lot of land that we have, but it's not in great places. There's no clear pathways to development on a lot of it, some of it, sure. But we do have a primary development area that has been sort of eyeball to be this main corridor of expansion, especially for this as far as our commitments go on as a right for 6 units and whatnot. So is that a conversation that leveraging land is going to seek to answer and provide council with insight on? And I think specifically the insight that would be valuable is when it comes to budget season, when it comes to prioritizing any of that service money that we have for underground servicing specifically.
Through the chair to the councillor, again, it is a draft initiative, but the leveraging land originates from our Housing Accelerator Fund action plan, which we've checked off, we've completed that. And phase 1 of that was to really focus on underutilized city-owned land. So that inventory was created, I believe it was shared with the committee. And to your point, yes, there are a lot of city parcels that come with constraints. Oftentimes they're land for public purpose. They could have another recreational purpose. They're kind of just sitting there. We're hesitant to necessarily release those because recreation land doesn't come again. Or it could be serving another purpose. But what we have found too over the years is that combing through those lands, we do find gems every now and then of lands that, hey, actually could serve another purpose. So I do think there's still some ongoing opportunities that might emerge from that. And will be an ongoing thing. There was a phase 2 to that project that looked at underutilized land in general. So that could mean land that's owned by another level of government. We know in the federal, there's not a lot of federally owned land in St. John. I can count on one hand the number of properties that would fall into that category. On the provincial side, the story is a little bit different. And then there could be private underutilized land to approach from that angle. But those are sort of the lands and vision, not necessarily the unserviced, but within PDA lands that would likely more fall through a planning process.
Yeah,
I guess that's. Wants to just tag on to something. Said,
Yeah.
She's been waiting to tag.
Yeah, just an additional information. So as part of the North End Neighborhood Plan project, we are going to be doing an infrastructure roadmap for the North End. So that answers, I think, the questions that you're asking, Councillor. So when we talk about increased density in certain areas or what the development of the North End plan could look like, we are going to have an associated infrastructure roadmap so that we understand what's needed, where the infrastructure is, what's missing, for that type of development and density that we're looking at in that plan area.
Can I follow on to that? Because
Okay, and then Jerry's gonna wrap us up.
I'll go around 2 here, because I think there's a governance question here about precedent. Did we accidentally set precedent that the only way to develop an infrastructure map for housing development and planning development is through the development of a specific neighborhood plan?
No, we have
Okay,
not
good.
set that. We
All right.
we just are doing it.
Yeah,
I don't think
okay.
we know it's the right thing to do.
No, I get it. Okay.
Do we expand that out? Maybe,
Well-
but where we're right now is through the North End Neighborhood Plan.
Right. So then I guess that is the follow-up question to you, Chair. At some point in time, we need to kind of discuss that primary development area and what its limitations are and when it is we're going to map some of the rest of it out. Because I think it's great. The North End Neighborhood Plan is going to do that in a specific context. But more broadly, we've got that PDA and we haven't really set much new direction on it as a council outside of a couple of these things. And I don't think even in the 5 years I've been here, we've had a presentation about that and how the relationship works with our capital planning and our planning direction. Because we've set direction from a planning perspective on some of these new amendments that have come in, but we've never kind of seen the dovetail.
Okay, you go ahead, Nana.
Yeah, just a couple additional points there. Just a reminder that the Plan SJ review will be undertaken later this year and next year. And when there is a capital planning, the 5-year capital plan, the planning team, development team is plugged into that to make sure that the capital planning links in with our growth targets and plans as part of the 5-year capital plan programming.
So what role does council have in setting direction there?
I'd say through your Plan SJ, through your development targets, through your PDA identification, you set the plan for how you want to see the city develop. And then the infrastructure team, St. John Water and the engineering team takes that information along with staff here and, capital renewal requirements, and then they put
Yeah.
together a capital plan.
But we haven't renewed or even discussed Plan SJ as a team.
That's why I'm saying,
five
is
years.
reminding you that it's going to be done next year.
We,
We do have a plan, and it's a 25-year plan, don't forget, but it is being renewed next year.
that's because of the conversation we had not too long ago about updating our Plan SJ, Play SJ and everything as we grow, and the PDA as well. As we grow, these have to be revisited. And as Commissioner said, we're gonna start that in 26, 27. So Jerry, you gotta,
Yeah. Yeah, Andy, like I like what I see for the future, right? But the 5 years I've been around here, like there's something that bothers me. I think it should be looked at. We got people, and this pertains to through the PAC, I guess. We're allowing people to come buy land and we rezone it and they do nothing with it except try to sell it or not sell it and tie it up. And we just made a change, I believe, in Anglin Drive where we said, we'll sell you the land, but if you don't have a building permit in a certain period of time, we're taking it back again. And I think down by Tin Can Beach, the property that was bought 6 years ago, rezoned. And I think it's up this month in the year 226. The rezoning's up. We don't own that land. But by doing that, there's one just done through PAC again on the Loch Lomond Road, and I see a sign for sale now. We rezoned it for 140 units, 270 unit buildings. And now there's a sign on the Loch Lomond Road for sale. I think that staff through you, Andy, I think in the last 5 years, the building, and well, it's proof here today, the building is unbelievable what's going on in St. John. If we compare it to St. John, we're not comparing to Moncton, we're not comparing to Fredericton. Because if we look at them, we see them moving ahead too. But I think we should be more restrictive on how we rezone land and put conditions on it that if it's land we sell, we take it back again if there's not a building permit. If it's land that we don't own and we rezone, then we change the rezoning in a certain period of time so somebody else can move ahead and continue to build on it. And I see that happening a lot with outside buyers and also with local buyers. And it bothers me that all of a sudden, if you were going to buy the land before it was rezoned, it's going to cost X number of dollars. If you go buy it after we rezone it through PAC, it costs a hell of a lot more money. And it's stagnant certain areas of this city.
so Commissioner Wozniak, do you want to respond?
Yeah, please. So good points. And, I think Counselor, you mentioned, you made a good point. When we own the land, we have control. And so the Anglin Drive property, we gave I don't know what the time frame was, a year or 2 years, that which they need to build. And if they don't, then it comes back to us, or then we buy it from them back. So we have the control in that case. Private land, we have the control over rezoning approvals or not. It is not uncommon for folks to take land and rezone it for development readiness. And maybe they're a landowner who they're not a developer or they can't develop. It's not uncommon for people to zone lands for someone else to build on it. And I know it gives the group here sometimes a little heartburn or concern about how long things take. There's a lot of reasons why people don't build within the time frame that you're hoping to see it. But development readiness is something that it's not uncommon in other cities that people get land zoned for future development. What I also hear is just a little bit of a comment or desire around some discussion on sunset clauses. We've had those conversations before, and we can certainly have that again around sunset clauses. They can be problematic. We've talked about it in the past, but we can certainly have that conversation again. If we want to talk about sunset clauses, not today, but we can at a future meeting.
Councilor Root, or Mayor Root.
I was just gonna,
I'm sorry.
no problem. That's my original handle. I guess I see two ways that you increase the value of your land, and one is through assessment, which we have no control over. But the other way is through rezoning. And we've seen that, and I'm good with that because it increases our land value. And whether, somebody builds or they don't build, we can't control a lot of that on private, but that increased assessment on value of the land translates into an increased assessment, translates into more tax base for us, translates into, I find that the more valuable your land becomes, the more interesting you become as a city. Because, if your land is cheap and you have lots of it, well, people don't rush to get there. But if so I don't have a problem with that. And there are people that have owned big chunks of the South Peninsula here and have owned it for years and are doing nothing with it. And I mean, there's not much we can do about that, I guess, until they, decide they want to do something with it or unload that as they downsize. But I'm not against that rezoning. And if I could do more of it, I would, because it does increase the value of our land big time.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that there's definitely pros and cons to having, a sunset clause, but at this, you could always have an extension put on for situations that come up that are unexpected. But certainly, this is a great report, extremely interesting, and I'd like to get now, I guess, a motion to receive and file. Barry and Mariah on the question, all in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion's carried, and I guess that's over to you, Councilor Law. Thank you all.